Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and this is going to be a public service announcement for anybody that happened to watch my video on Cosmonautica before. This is more Cosmonautica, and we have a problem. So what we're looking at here is the combat system in Cosmonautica, and this is something I didn't have a chance to look at before doing the video. And what you're seeing here is kind of an interesting combat system, and it has at least one or two problems. Right now, how this combat system actually works, if I can... there is actually no way to really pause it at the moment. So, you click on the button, which has the action above any character that happens to be manning any particular station. So, a character that is in the pilot seat will allow you to have all the different sort of maneuvers. You can choose to fly by them, you can put shields up if somebody's operating the shield computer, and you have your turret here which will reload and so on and so forth. Now, there are two ways that this will end. Either one of the ships is destroyed, and that includes your own, or you can actually hail them to end combat. However, the problem with this combat system is the AI tends to break. And this is what happened the last time I attempted this combat mission. Once I had reached just a sliver of my hull integrity here, once that reaches 0 up here, that ship is destroyed. Now, I don't have weapons strong enough to do this mission, and this is actually a mission that is part of the story. So the intention, of course, is that you would be able to afford a ship that can at least have some combat ability. Unfortunately, this weapon I'm using is quite useless, and is barely doing any damage to them. So the most I can do is attempt to outlast them by using as little ammo as possible and using the shield whenever I can, but that's not really that useful, as it turns out. So what happened was the hull integrity reached the bare minimum and the enemy simply stopped firing. And you would think that, okay, well that gives you a chance to get away. Except that it doesn't, because when you attempt to flee, you have to maintain a certain distance from the enemy. Once you've attained that distance, then you can actually escape. Now, I'm not sure if there's an actual map boundary that you can reach, but I was not able to reach that distance because they would continue tailing you, even if they're not actually shooting at you, thus creating an endless combat situation. That is a very big problem, because there's no way to get out of it then, other than reloading a save and not attempting the mission at all. So, prior to my recommendation of the game, in fact, up until this point, I would still recommend it. But unfortunately, the combat is about half the game. And for a space trading game, it's not something you'd expect to be a big part of it, but this is at least 50% of the game. In fact, there are dedicated ships for this exact purpose, but the combat system itself seems to be broken. So until this is fixed, I can't say that this is a game that's worth recommending. In fact, the combat itself is very, very rudimentary, honestly. It's not that interesting. You've got a few maneuvers, and that all depends on the maneuverability of your ship, and it's frankly, it's not particularly exciting. It's pushing a bunch of buttons and waiting for numbers to tick down. And there really isn't much to it other than that. We can see at this stage, they've actually slowed down their attack on me as well. So they're not shooting as much as before. I think that might have been a reload, I can't be sure. But because they have a more maneuverable ship than I do, this is a lot more difficult to do than it otherwise would be. Let's attempt to flee now. And I'll show you exactly what happens when you flee. So basically your ship goes in a straight line as far away as possible from the enemy. But I'm a lot slower than they are, and this is not proving to be very easy to do at all. In fact, this is a dodge button, and it seems to do absolutely nothing. Unless you're fleeing. Because what it does is it diverts the course sharply, very quickly to one side, and hopefully it misses. That's the idea behind it. So if you have a ship that's capable of it, then yeah, it'll attempt to do it. Now you might have noticed it's all that's happened is it's become a very wide circle. And the reason it's doing that is because the AI for your ship is now attempting to move directly away from them, but because they are still circling me, it's moving me in a constant circle as well. Therefore, there is basically nothing I can do. So this is... Oh, now I'm being called. Right, so they're demanding money, and I can choose to give them nothing, because I have nothing. I have absolutely nothing to give them. And then they just let me go. I paid him nothing and he let me go. Yeah, the game has some problems. So, the space trading itself is okay. It's not a very deep game in that sense. The crew management is alright. That has a little bit more depth to it, but not that much. I like the setting, and I like the sort of simplicity of it. But it has this amount of problems that I can't fairly recommend it in any possible way. So if you have watched my previous video, this is the addendum to that. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.